Hi, welcome to the virtual event space of Books and Books, your locally owned independent bookstore in South Florida. I am Christina Russell, the book buyer for our children's and YA sections, and I am very excited to be here today and get to host some of my all-time favorite YA authors. Excuse my email. YA authors and celebrate their glorious wonderful Latinx stories. So we're here in particular to mark the launch of Our Way Back to Always, the sophomore YA romance novel by Nina Moreno. Her debut, Don't Date Rosa Santos, changed the game for me, I think for other Cuban American readers too. It's one of my favorite books of all time, so I'm super excited to be here to celebrate her second. And of course, to get to revisit Port Coral because the world needs more Port Coral. So we're super lucky to get to see her in conversation today with Laekan Kemp and Laura Taylor Namey. To get things started, I'm going to read their formal bios, and then I will tell you a little bit about your screen before I bring them back on. So first up is Nina. Nina Moreno is a YA writer whose prose is somewhere between Southern fiction and a telenovela. She graduated from the University of Florida and writes about Latinas chasing their dreams, falling in love, and navigating life in the hyphen. She lives by a swamp outside of Orlando, where she enjoys listening to carefully curated playlists, hunting through thrift stores, drinking too much Cuban coffee, and walking into the sea every chance she gets. She's the author of Don't Date Rosa Santos and Our Way Back to Always, which I have, yay. Okay, Laekan Kemp is the author of Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet and the upcoming Heartbreak Symphony on sale in April of 2022. She has 3 objectives when it comes to storytelling: to make people laugh, to make people cry, and to make people crave Mexican food. Her work celebrates Chicanx grit, resilience, creativity, and joy while exploring themes of identity and mental health. She lives in Austin, Texas. And last but not least is Laura Taylor Namey, who is the New York Times bestselling author of Reese Witherspoon YA Book Club Pick, A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow, as well as The Library of Lost Things and When We Were Them. A proud Cuban American, she can be found hunting for vintage treasures and wishing she was in London or Paris. She lives in San Diego with her husband and 2 children. So a little bit about your screen tonight. The big green button is the most important thing, of course, aside from us. And that is because it will bring you to purchase a copy of Our Way Back to Always by Nina Moreno. We're very, very lucky that we get to offer you signed copies of this book. We also can offer you signed copies of Don't Date Rosa Santos. These are not book plates, they are signed books. And we're also very lucky that they come with super cute swag that Nina had created for this book. So grab them while you can. And then the second thing about your screen is the Q&A button at the bottom right-hand corner where it says ask a question, which I invite you to use. I would be thrilled to ask these authors your questions in just a little bit. And that is it for me. I'm gonna start bringing Nina, Laekan, and Laura back on now. Hi.
Hello.
Okay. I think, yeah, I didn't unmute me.
Oh, okay, we're doing this? Okay. Okay.
There we go. I love these so much.
They're a little,
they're hard to do.
They are. They're very pink.
Tell us where you guys are from. All right, I'm gonna head off, but yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Okay, I have to.
I know.
Whoa. I had them on the whole time we were waiting backstage, and it was a little too long.
I know. I was like, man, how awesome would it be if we all came on with them on? They don't have them on. Oh my God, Laekan, you had them on the whole time. So I'll introduce the book, Our Way Back to Always. I'm really, really excited to talk about this book. It's book 2. If you are familiar with Port Coral and Don't Date Rosa Santos is somewhere over there. So this one is about Sam and Luisa. And so these are 2 former best friends who had a bit of a falling out in middle school. And it can be very dramatic when you're 12 to kind of fall in love with your best friend. So, but now that it's their senior year of high school and Louisa found a bucket list they wrote in middle school, and she's determined to finish all the quests on there because she's realized that she hasn't done any of them. And Sam is across the street dealing with the grief of losing his dad. And when he happens upon Louisa finishing the list, they cross paths again. I'm going to read just the first page. So this is Lou, because it is dual POV, so I'm super excited about that. I've never gotten to do that before. So Lou. So this is Louisa. I'm still waiting for the perfect summer my 12th one promised me. That was the year Papa El sold mangonada popsicles in Town Square. Sam and I started a YouTube channel, and my parents let my curfew stretch past dusk. That miracle was only because everyone in Port Coral reported our whereabouts anyway, but the freedom was intoxicating. And it was that summer when two preteens, high on spicy sweet mango, discovered the Port Coral High tradition known as Beach Day. On the first Saturday of every August, incoming seniors take over our local beach with all their drama, excitement, and bass-heavy speakers. Sam and I spied on them from the harbor like they were starring in a music video, which made sense since watching them made me feel the way Janelle Monáe songs did, bold, carefree, and flushed with new feelings. They were so alive with their broad shoulders and filled-out bikinis. Sam sat beside me just as enraptured. We couldn't wait for high school. And that spicy mango excitement went into penning our bucket list of all the things our thriving future high school selves would do. But popsicles melt, summers end, and Sam Alvarez turned 13 and into an idiot. And now after almost 5 years, I found that curse list in a notebook after digging through my closet last week. Clean your room, Mom said. You have to become more organized. But now look at me, cursed. Because by reading that little slip of paper, I opened a tomb. This was breaking a mirror bad. I've earned myself 7 years doom luck because it turns out that I've barely accomplished anything 7th grade Lou dreamed up for herself. And while I'm used to being an underwhelming disappointment to everyone else, letting my bright-eyed former self down is brutal. So it's time to remedy that.
So good.
Yay! So that was beautiful. I'm so excited that this book is dual point of view. But we're going to get into talking about all of those things. Laura and I have some questions prepared for you. And I have the first one. I guess first I'll introduce myself really quickly. I'm Laekan Kemp, the author of Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet, which is a YA contemporary romance about first love, familial expectations, the power of food, and finding where you belong, set in a Mexican restaurant that is the heart of a fiercely loyal Chicana community. And then the companion novel, which was briefly mentioned, Heartbreak Symphony, which takes place in the same neighborhood. It's another dual POV romance about overcoming grief through the power of music. So I'm so happy. Like, I feel like our sophomore books have a lot in common. That's something we've had a conversation about before. And so I'm just so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. We are here with Books and Books, a Florida-based bookstore. And in both of your books, the setting of Port Coral, Florida is so distinct. How do you capture that vibe so well in your writing, where the town is almost a character in the story itself? Why did you decide to set both of your books in the same town? Why is it important to you to infuse your stories with this specific Florida setting?
I'm definitely a settings first writer. Like a lot of times we all get into conversations about, are you a character first? Are you setting first? Like, I'm really obsessed with setting. One of the first stories that I wrote was a very Southern Gothic story because I love the imagery, a lot of things of the South. There are components of Florida that I love a lot. But I am, like a family member, always fighting with Florida. So it's important for me. I really wanted to create like this really cute, small town, aesthetics everywhere town for Florida teens to sort of romanticize their life around. I feel like we get the imagery of, New England towns and fall. Like, what's fall? I've never seen a tree change colors. So in creating Port Coral and getting the chance to return to Port Coral, it was this really, really cool opportunity to embrace the sort of tropical Stars Hollow that I, play around in, and having it be familiar and having it filled with diverse, welcoming, inclusive characters where, you know, a Latinx teen could walk onto the stage and feel fully embraced and not feel like they gotta sacrifice components of themselves to belong in this cute small town, you know? So yeah, there's definitely an element of fantasy to it, but I think it's an element of fantasy that they're worthy of, and to get to be imaginative and fun and playful and sweet, and especially in a story like, you know, Don't Date Rosa Santos, where it was so much about being the child of someone experiencing exile, being the child of someone who can't go home. So I wanted Port Coral to be this really safe place to have those questions, to ask yourself, where do I belong? If I don't belong, where my parents come from, you know? So getting to do those sort of the big work of that and ask those big questions in a cute place that people are like, oh, this looks like a postcard, is just really fun for me. And it feels like, I don't know, a homecoming for a lot of readers. So it's exciting. Port Coral. Look, Port Coral. I have the shirt on.
Oh my.
Gabby.
You even named your Animal Crossing town Port Coral, didn't you?
I did.
We
Laura,
played the game.
Yes, I did. It was 2020.
I've seen this. Okay.
We just all got Animal Crossing, and I named it Port Coral. And Gabby is amazing, and I like made the shirt because you know, the pixels or whatever in the game, and then Gabby made the shirt, and it is amazing, and I wear it.
I mean, yeah. Well, we're gonna go back to middle school now, because I loved it. You know, you wrote, this is obviously a YA novel that like also talks about middle school and all its fabulousness, or not.
Or not.
I know this book opens on a relationship that was jeopardized by middle school awkwardness and, in some sense, misunderstanding. And what made you decide to build a story around such a moment and such a time?
And it's so funny because I, for the first time in my life, started writing middle grade after this. So it wasn't like a part of me, you know, deciding where the story would go. But I just really, it's really important for me to, when I go into writing YA, when I go into writing kidlit, to not be solely driven by my own nostalgia, but to sort of honor these big feelings and honor how important they are. Like, you know, I've had early readers tell me, you know, I can't believe that they stopped talking, you know, or that, you know, for 4 years because of this one misunderstanding. And I'm like, have you been in the 7th grade? Like, I could tell you some heartbreaking friendship breakups I went through over a pass note, a long look, a wrong place at the wrong time. And I think because at that age, you are sort of developing the ability to be a person out in the world and have these relationships and figure out who you are through these relationships. So I think, you know, I don't know, I put a lot of myself in Louisa. And so when she has the misunderstanding that she does, I'm like, yeah, I would have done that. I would have absolutely done that. Like, I'm sorry, Louisa. So yeah, I think in writing kidlit, in writing middle grade, YA, whatever it is, honor the how important these feelings are to kids that age, how important these situations are to them, and not belittle them and be like, you'll get over that. You know, you'll forget who your friends were in middle school. You'll forget who you fell in love with in high school. Like, okay, maybe mom, but right now, no.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Mom.
Do you have any awkward moments from middle school that you would like to share with us, Laura?
Do I? Oh gosh. How long do we have? I don't know. Oh goodness. I can't even, I think the time is just kind of a blur. I remember switching schools, and that was hard, trying to find a friend group, and I was kind of like bouncing from friend group to friend group, floating around. I was like, are these my people? Is this my squad? And I would just like kind of bounce around, and finally I found some people. But that first year, like going to a new school in 7th grade, terrifying.
It's hard, right?
But some of those friends I still have. Like one of them was my maid of honor when I got married. I know.
Oh, I love that.
So you were saying like these friendships are important. They can be. They're real. These are real relationships, and we got 3 kidlit writers here saying this stuff is important. So
yeah,
we die on this hill. What about you, Laekan?
So surely everyone here has seen the movie Mean Girls, I'm guessing. And there's this scene where Katie goes to her first Halloween party and totally did not get the memo that she was supposed to have like a sexy costume. And this literally happened to me in middle school. I'd always been one of the youngest kids in my grade, and so always felt like a little behind in terms of like maturity and development, I guess you could say. But yeah, I went to my first Halloween party that wasn't like a family party, and all of the other girls were in these cute costumes with like their makeup done, and I went as the girl from The Ring.
You mean my daughter, 3 years old, showing up in the middle of the night? That one? Yeah.
Yeah.
With commitment.
Like, yeah.
We spent like 2 hours straightening my hair because this was back when like straighteners were not that great. And so yeah, just put a lot of effort into it for no reason. And it was just so embarrassing. I think I stayed for like an hour and then I went home. But I feel like that perfectly encapsulates sort of what middle school was like for me. Just a lot of awkwardness every day.
It's rough, y'all.
Yeah.
Why are we writing about this?
I don't know.
To heal, I think.
You said we're over it. Like, obviously, clearly, we're not
Clearly, over the trauma.
No.
So I've got the next question. We are still in the midst of celebrating Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month and, of course, celebrating the launch of Our Way Back to Always. How do Lou's and Sam's own Latinx heritage inform their experiences in this book? Can you talk about your own experience as a Latinx writer and how your own heritage informs your writing?
With Lou and Sam, it was kind of cool because, you know, Rosa was such a specific experience. It was a Cuban American experience. And so with Lou and Sam, I got to play a little bit more with both sides of my culture because, you know, my mom is Colombian, my dad was Cuban. So I made Lou Colombian and I made Colombian American. I made Sam Cuban American. But I didn't want to spend too much time on the page with them agonizing over, am I Latinx enough? Am I Cuban enough? Am I Colombian enough? I didn't want to do that. But I really wanted to show the specific ways that can manifest for, you know, teens for Sam specifically, dealing with the grief of losing his father. You know, he's the only boy in the family. He's got a younger sister. He's got a white mother, and he's got a Cuban abuela who moved into the house to help. And so he's like the bridge. He's the bridge between mom and abuela. He's the bridge between English and Spanish. He's the bridge between, he's papito, you know, he's supposed to be the prized Latino son. And what happens when you feel like you have to fill these shoes and you don't know how, you know, or you're putting that pressure on yourself. And so with Sam, it was just this exploration of what does it mean when I'm starting to fear that I'm forgetting the sound of my dad's voice, when I'm losing Spanish and I can feel my tongue not able to form these words. Like I just really wanted it to be more specific, you know, than am I Cuban enough, you know? And with Lou, it's so much about, Lou's almost like next generation. She'd be like my daughter, you know, whatever, where your mother was the child of immigrants who had to deal with all this stuff, and she excelled. She went to college. She became a professor. She writes books. She does all these things. And now you're her daughter. How do you live up to that? Because your mom had to live up to all this stuff. And, you know, how do you perform success? How do you become an caps lock educated Latina, you know? And so Lou is sort of inundated with all this imagery of what success looks like. It's the bedazzled graduation caps. It's the viral video of getting into Harvard. It's, you know, all of these things that I'm exceptional. I'm deserving of this success. So I think I just really wanted to explore, you know, there's a million books about senior year of high school, a million books, a million stories, but it's exciting to see more viewpoints, more cultures, more experiences that teens are experiencing inform these stories, where it's not just one experience of high school. It's not one experience of making plans for after college. So their cultures inform that because it's informing their day-to-day life. It's informing their, you know, their relationship to their friends, their family, you know, whatever. So, and with me, it was exciting to get to do that because I remembered that. I remember that feeling of first one to go to college. I've got to do this. I got to perform in a very specific way. And unlike Rosa, I was not a very good student. I was okay. But so I relate a little bit more to Lou. And okay, how do I all of a sudden become an amazing student, you know? I don't know about you guys, how senior year went for y'all, but it was a lot of pressure.
I like that you did that because it's not always shown. I felt like it was really fresh. The portrayal of her, it was, and that struggle. Yeah.
The anxiety of performing.
Mm-hmm. When you've seen, you know, trying to follow in friends or mother's footsteps. So that was, yeah. And on that note, this book does have a little of everything, romance and emotional growth, but also humor. And how did you strike a balance with all of these emotions, making it a true romantic comedy?
I take the title of rom-com pretty seriously. Like, I think we're in a like a lot of contemporaries get called rom-com just automatically. If there's a love story, it gets called a rom-com, and I'm like, there needs to be an element of humor there. There needs to be an element of, you know, a romp, you know, slapstick, something to just invoke a little bit of, you know, I got to chuckle at some point, you know, it can't just be two people in a contemporary era falling in love. So I love a rom-com. I grew up on them, and I really wanted to, especially with a book like this, and Laekan and I talked a little bit about on your podcast about writing about grief and writing about and having to explore all those feelings again on the page. And with this story, it's very much for me about how do you find joy in the messy years? How do you find happiness in the years that you want to hurry up and get past, you know? And with Sam, with, you know, my own experience of grief, it's like that first year, you just want to get it over with. The first year of first Christmas without them, the first holiday, first birthday, first whatever, just survive it. And then your life you can almost hit play and move on. So, and I felt like senior year is a little bit like that. Like, just hurry up and get to the next part. Well, what does the next part look like? I don't know, you know? So if I could add humor to that, if I could find, you know, the upside down funny in the moments that it is, like, that was my goal. I want this to be funny and romantic because I set out to be funny and romantic because I was not going to write another grief book. I was not going to write another sad book. And then, you know, life said, ha, 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 Nina. So I guess that's where the humor came in.
Yeah, but I think in real life, it's those moments of humor that we're not expecting that really do sustain us when we're going through really difficult things. So I really appreciated that about the book. Lou and Sam, as we've been talking about, are at such an interesting age and time in their lives. When this book is taking place, they're on the precipice of adulthood, figuring out who they are and what they want their futures to be, and all of the angst that comes with that. How did you capture that feeling so well? What was high school senior Nina Moreno like, and what was going through your own head at that time?
I don't know. I have a running joke that I am eternally either 80 years old or 14. Like, those are my two modes. So, like, I figured high school might come up. So I actually have a picture of high school.
Oh my
Nina.
gosh.
I know. Those are my parents, and that's me and my boyfriend who becomes my husband. So high school is still around, I guess, for me a little bit. But no, yeah, it was really, really important for me to, I don't know, I love YA. I love the honesty of it. I love the work that it does. Not just for my own nostalgia, but for creating space for teens, you know, like me, for teens who are growing up, and I'm walking down the street and I see them, you know, these Latino teens in my neighborhood. Like, I want to make sure they have cool stories to pick up where they feel like they could be the main character, because they are the main character, you know? So, but I love angst, and I love to get lost in a playlist. I just love the emotions of it. And I think all of us do really exciting work in getting to tell them love stories and tell friendship stories and give it all this space and give it all of these high emotions and stakes and, you know, all these things that aren't sort of cornering them into only specific places. Like, you can only tell this person's story if it's going to be an immigration story. You can only tell this person's story if it's going to be specifically in Miami. Like, no, I want us to take up so much space. And that's why, I don't know, it's so exciting for me, to talk about Our Way Back to Always, but to talk about it with all of you. And like, both of your books were books that I loved so much because they're love stories and they're funny and they're settings. And it's like, look at us, like, look at us falling in love and being angsty and being funny and dealing with the trauma of middle school. Like, aren't we awesome? Like,
and eating everything under the sun.
And eating everything.
Like, really? I know. Well, back from food to loss. Is it hard to put your characters through these tough situations and make them deal with? We have to do it. It's like your children. But what's it like for you? Did you feel sorry for them? Were you excited for them when they, do you kind of emote along with them? Talk about that.
Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't going to write another grief book, y'all. I was not going to do it. I was going to write a light, funny rom-com. I was going to watch me. And then, Sam looked at me and I was like, God dang it. He's in the Dead Dad Club too. Like, I know that look. So it is important. I don't know. Like, I want to make sure that I'm, like Laekan was saying, like, finding the moments of hope and, lightness in these moments. Cause I think it gives people hope when they're going through loss. Like, I had a hard time reading grief books when I was, in the midst of my grief. But I liked knowing they were there waiting for me. Like, I liked the possibility of finding a story like this and hopefully finding, like, okay, it's not going to be perfect. Healing is not linear, but I'm going to get to the end of this and there's going to be room to breathe, So I think in letting them experience loss and letting them do that, I'm creating hope. I'm creating hope because we're all going to go through this in some way, in some fashion. We're all going to go through loss. So I think not hiding teens from that experience, not saying that you've experienced loss. That doesn't mean you also don't get to experience a love story. You're going to get both. Like, I think that's hope. That's where hope comes from.
And I think one of the most hopeful parts of the book is the romantic relationship. Lou and Sam have such an adorable connection. And as the reader, you're really rooting for them in so many ways, rooting for their friendship, rooting for something more to happen between them. How do you portray a believable and compelling romance between characters? What are the ingredients that make a swoon-worthy romance in YA? And how did high school Nina approach dating, crushes, all that stuff?
I read a lot of romance. I love romance. I love the way romance writers develop their characters, develop relationships, are able to show, two people falling in love. Like, I think that's amazing, So how do you do that in YA? I don't know. I tried my best. No, but I love friends to lovers. Like, that's one of my favorite tropes. So I knew I wanted to write this story for a really long time. I wanted to write two former friends sort of reconnecting, rediscovering each other. But how fun is it when you get to start from a place of they're fighting, it's combative. I remember that last fight. No, you don't remember that last fight. Yes, I do. It was your fault. No, it was your fault. Like, I loved getting to give the layers of friendship and shining a romance on them. I think that's a really fun, I don't know. I love the trope so much. But high school Nina, as I said, high school Nina is still with her boyfriend from high school. I did not expect that. I was not. And if anybody was here that knew me in high school, they'd be like, Nina was not that girl. Like, I loved romance, but as a bystander, like I'm a little bit like Lou in that way where I almost didn't want to ruin it because my fantasy and expectations were like Dawson's Creek. Like, and I knew I wasn't going to get that. I knew I wasn't going to find Pacey Witter. So I was like, I'm not dealing with this. I went to high school in the late 90s and early 2000s. All the boys had frosted tips and spiky hair. And it was just, There was no Pacey Witter. And so I was like, I'm not going to fall in love. I'm not going to fall in love. And then I moved to Florida and I met a drummer. So this is where I am now. If you read it, if you'll read it, you'll know that I have a great love for drummers. But
that's what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, that Congo over there is not mine. So I don't know if you can see it, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know. High school Nina was a lot like Lou. I've had a lot of people ask me if I'm like Rosa, over the last 2 years or whatever. Are you like Rosa? Me and Rosa have a lot of similar questions, being the daughters of exile, living in Florida, wanting to see Cuba, wanting to, bridge this gap between, generations. But no, like, I am not that student. I was not doing dual enrollment. I was C average, getting through school as best I could, community college baby all day. So it was fun to live vicariously through Rosa, but I'm much more of a Louisa.
And what about you, Laura? Do you have any high school romance experiences you'd like to share?
Read Cuban Girl's Guide, and that's pretty much Laura at 18. There you go. I've done so many interviews and podcasts and questions on this very thing that Lila Reyes, who stars in Cuban Girl's Guide, is me good and bad and more bad than good, type A. If something changes, it means it's wrong. And so you have to have everything mapped out, and any change means, yeah, that's not great. So yeah, I kind of went back to her when I wrote Cuban Girl, and that was interesting. But it made, yeah, and funny how that made a narrative and an entire story. Yeah, that worked out. But yeah, and people that knew me back then are like, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So it's kind of a time capsule, and it's weird, we get to do these things as authors, and I know that all of you and all of us do this, like, it's where you get to put things and where you get to store things. Our own, there's a time capsule element in this book, and there's like, these are our time capsules, and we put things from middle school and high school, and not everything, and we reimagine many things, but some things go between pages for us, and that is, from writers to readers, we're just going to say that's really fun. Yeah, and interesting. Sometimes painful, but usually, it's an honor, and it's something neat that we enjoy about what we do. Yeah, and I love how this book kind of circles around all of that, and it's like a big memory. It's a memory is such a big element in going back and completing things and honoring memory and things that were important, and are they still important, and changing that. So
yeah,
that time capsule element is neat. Like, what do we still want? Yeah,
because with Rosa, it was so much about our parents' memory, So I think in this one, a little bit more, it was about what about my memories? What about honoring
and what's wrong about that? I'm writing something similar right now too, like playing with that. It's like, what happens if your recollection of an event or a time, it becomes a misbelief, and it's not really all the way there, and what you think was happening is not at all like what is going on, and someone went through the same thing with you, but they have an entirely different takeaway.
Oh yeah.
And that is totally in here. Besides that, we're going to move on, because I want to know about this is familial pressure and status, and that is huge in this book. Living up to expectations, whether they're just like straight in the family or cultural. And how do you think this particular thing resonates with kids today, and specifically Latinx kids, if that's different or another aspect?
I think it's such a universal experience, especially for any kids of immigrants, whether they're Latinx or not, or when you have that sort of pressure of, I'm going to perform for, I'm going to save my family. I'm going to, they sacrifice so much to bring me here, to put me into this situation. How can I do anything less than exceptional? But in that equation, in that sort of burden of excellence, as a teen, you don't really have a lot of room or a lot of space to think about yourself, or to think about self-care, or to think about your own, internal compass. You know, you're always aimed towards the previous generation and honoring them and honoring their sacrifices and becoming worthy of your own narrative. So I, you know, with this, you know, as something as, you know, simple or, you know, universal or whatever as making a list of what colleges you're going to go to, I wanted to really show what it means to, I'm going to be next. I need to be the best. And it's like, you're not even thinking of yourself. You're not even, you know, thinking of what would make you happy. And I think that feels like such a luxury, and that feels like such a privilege, because I guess in talking about grief and talking about college and talking about senior year, like one of the biggest things I was exploring and trying to get across was the fact that time is what's the privilege. Time is what all of us are running out of. So, and you can feel that when you lose someone. You can feel that when you're applying to college and trying to, you know, be the best and get somewhere great that will make your family say, oh my gosh, you're amazing. And you're like, I'm never going to be able to do that for my parents. I'm never going to be able to become that, you know, I'm not going to get into Harvard, Mom, but I hope you still love me. You know, like those viral videos, I think in teens are so exposed to them. I remember in writing this, I watched so many videos of kids who were like filming themselves, you know, reacting to their college acceptances and when they would get in and when they wouldn't. And everything is so present for everyone to sort of see. So the pressure, not just from family, but from friends, from an identity that you're building for yourself with, you know, the few pieces that you have, I think it's such a struggle. And I really wanted to honor that through a Latinx lens, through, you know, a YA contemporary, you know.
Speaking of struggle, our heroine, our heroine is flawed but so lovable. In the way she avoids confronting her true emotions sometimes. What's your favorite thing about her? What advice would you give her if she were your younger sister who just needed some wisdom from someone on the other side of adulthood?
One of my favorite relationships to write in this book was Lou and her sister. And the sort of what it is to have a sister that you love and that you're looking up to, but that you're also like, you're terrible because you're so perfect. And then, you know, her sister doesn't perform her, you know, role the way that everyone expects her to. She doesn't go to Princeton. She stays home to have a baby and work at a botanica and, you know, all these things that are like seemingly to a, you know, a Latina or whatever, that it's like, you're taking a step backwards. Your mom went to college. Your mom published books. Your mom's, you know, this, you know, academic, and you're going to stay home and have a baby. Like, we have this idea that success is supposed to look specifically like this, and happiness is supposed to go up those stairs, or else what are you doing, you know? So for Lou, I loved getting to give her advice through her sister, because Lou really does come to see that boldness takes a lot of shapes, because Lou's journey for a long time is, I want to be bold. I want to be carefree. I want to live that senior year that I had, you know, in my head, this filtered teen dream music video that I thought was going to be high school, that I thought was going to be my teen years, and wasn't. I'm going to make it happen really quick. But then through, you know, through the book, getting to hang out with her sister and getting to see, you know, that boldness takes different shapes. It's not specific to any experience or meeting any certain expectation. So I would give, if I could give Lou advice other than what her sister gives her, it would be like, calm down. You're fine. You're amazing. Like, enjoy the messiness of this moment. Like, I don't know. I try to give my daughter the same advice, because I feel like there's so much pressure on kids to perform in specific certain ways to meet a certain ideal. And it's like, baby girl, if I could just tell you, like, just like yourself, find a way to like yourself, and then you're good. You're good. Like, where, you know, wherever the road takes you, just be cool with yourself. And then, you know, and I think Lou's pretty cool. Like, I would hang out with her, like, play video games and like watch Dawson's Creek. Yeah, sure. You know? I got to stop mentioning Dawson's Creek in these episodes.
We're keeping a tally. Laekan and I are texting him. No, by the way, we're keeping a tally every time we say the name Percy, Dawson, or Creek.
Oh God.
Okay, do you have a bucket list, Nina, for high school? Did you have one, or
I
what
did-
would be on it?
I didn't have a bucket list, but I was definitely the type of person who, like I said, like romanticized things and like had ideas in my head. I was too nervous and anxious to like act on anything. And, you know, like I said, all the boys had frosted tips. So it was like, I cannot deal with this. But I definitely like, that's how, I guess I don't know. I guess this is a little bit Rosa, because it's like, I remember in 9th grade at one point, I was like, man, things aren't going the way I wanted to. Like, I'm, you know, my grades weren't great. I was hanging out with not great people, like getting in trouble a little bit. So I was like, I'm going to make a list. And like, the list was like, I'm going to hang out with that person. I'm going to eat lunch over there. I'm like, it was so specific. And I was like, okay, I'm doing it. Check, 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 you know? So I guess, you know, there's a little bit of Rosa that lives in me, but it was like not study. It was go hang out by these lockers and see who you can make friends with, you know? I don't know. But as far as bucket lists, like, yeah, I haven't made one. Have you? Have y'all ever made a bucket list? No?
No, I think more like an author one than a high school one, because I don't think it was something that we did like thought about or internalized back then. It's more like we're just trying to survive. We were just going to just get out and go forth. It wasn't, you know, I think that's more of a more recent thing with teens. Like,
sometimes I'm scared to
not
make lists, you know, because I'm like, oh no, the evil eye, don't look at my goals, you know.
right.
Are you guys ready for some audience questions? Yay! Okay.
Yay.
We have some fun ones. So this one I thought was really fun. It's from Rachel. It's for all three of you. If your most recent main character could hop into another book, what book do you think they would want to live in? And it can be your own book, another panelist book, or it can be any book, basically.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of
Wow.
Rachel would ask.
Why are you making
amazing
us
question.
work, Rachel? That is so good.
Oh man. Okay.
Laekan. I'm so
I
mean.
would say
I'm terrible. I'm sorry.
maybe the first idea that came to me was like for all of the authors in Las Musas to like do something sort of like Blackout, where maybe we just take all of our characters and throw them into the same worlds and see how they interact.
That's mine too.
Yeah.
I think Leela, I do have another book, but that one, but I'm going to go back to Leela because she's just right here. And Nina and I talked about this when she was kind enough to blurb this one a year, whatever ago, how Leela and Rosa and Orion and you know, and everybody would totally get along. And if Leela came to Port Coral, like she would totally be friends with Rosa. They're on the same like way. Like, they have places to go. Don't get in their way. So, but we would totally love to do that. We kind of fantasize about that all the time, like putting all our characters in to a big showdown.
I think Rosa would go to Laura. She would absolutely want to travel and get to do what Leela did. Like, but with Lou, I think she would be too scared. And Lou like wants a friend group and wants to have that, like, wants to go to parties and do all that thing. So I think she would absolutely be in Laekan's book. She would want to hang out at the restaurant. She would want to have all those misfits like claim her and invite her to the party. Like, absolutely. I want to be invited.
She needs a struggles to like.
Yes.
You know, come on, girl, come with it. You know, she needs one of those.
Yeah, they would imprint on her without her permission. Like, you're hired, you're family now.
Oh my God,
that's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, it was
so good.
If Rachel Stroll on Twitter, she's a librarian.
Oh, okay.
She's an amazing reader. Yeah,
Hi,
so
Rachel.
she of course had a great question. So another one. Do you guys know each other's writing processes, and is there anything that you wish you could steal from each other for yourself?
I'm stealing Port Coral. That's all. And Nina is just like so cool. I'm sorry, she's the coolest. And Laekan, I'm stealing the food. Okay, I'm done. Go.
I'm going to steal Laekan's tech abilities. So every time I have to do these, I can be as smooth and as cool as Laekan is on camera. And whichever one of you is a really good plotter, I'm taking that.
None of us.
Not me.
You got a bunch of, see, Laekan and I did an event, and she's like, I totally do the same thing. We leave lots of room for epiphany and discovery. That's a very exploration, a very kind way to say, like, I'm not a pantser, but I don't outline. What's an outline? I don't outline. No, I do like the big goals, and I get there.
So
right
none
away.
of you guys outline?
No. I can write an entire synopsis for a book and not outline it.
Oh my God. No, I do outline, but it's like it'll be like 3 beats and I still struggle to get through there. And then like Alexis Daria, I don't know, she's an amazing romance writer. She's like, she has all the craft books and she has like, I want that. I want the ability to like, I don't know. I want the boards, the outlines, the post-it notes.
What?
I don't know.
What is this?
Or I don't know. I need to write this book. Please help me.
When I see authors with whiteboards, it's really like intimidating. I mean, yeah,
it's like
we
go
like yeah. And if it's maths, no, I don't know. It doesn't even go here. Like it's.
So on the subject of rom-coms, what are each of your favorite romantic comedies? Do you have any favorite romantic protagonists that inspired you from books you've read?
Oh, I was gonna go. Yeah,
it's like
I was gonna go movie because I totally name drop Heath Ledger in this book and 10 Things I Hate About You, like that imprinted on me. So, but books, I think one of the best like YA romance writers in the game is Christina Forrest. Like I think her books are so tightly plotted and cinematic, and I'm sure she's a really good outliner. It's like I am in awe of her books sometimes because they are the definition, I think, of unputdownable, and like they hit all those romance beats and they do everything you want them to do as a romance reader, but while still surprising you and still keeping you all fluttery and excited, and they're amazing.
I love Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. And that is it's just a delightful rom-com. Love that with the pretty blue cover. That one had me laughing. Like it really was the calm in rom-com. Like it was really funny and adorable. So that's one that I love.
For movies, I don't necessarily remember this being like a comedy. But my favorite romance is Dirty Dancing, Havana Nights, because I'm obsessed with Diego Luna. And he's been my crush since like 12 years old. So yeah, I think I would pick that one as far as movies go.
Good choice.
So what are each of yours favorite characters that you've written from Joanne?
Oh my goodness, that's hard.
They're all our babies. We love them all. Like
I really love a side character that I keep dragging around in Benny Pena. He's like he was really fun to write in Rosa, but he was like the junior. He was like a year younger because he's Ana Maria's little brother. So it was fun to write this like little brother sort of tagging along with them all the time. But then getting to write him as like the best friend in this book was really fun because I really, really love, the store that they work in. And I also love Benny's cousin, Junior Pena. He's like in the back trying to sell his mixtape and trying to give terrible, advice to everyone. And like, I love him a lot, but there's a little bit of an Easter egg about him in my middle grade. And when my editor figured it out, she was like, "Oh my God, Nina!" I was like, "Yeah, man, the Port Coral universe, man. We're going worldwide, baby."
I love that. All right, so yeah, I've got 2 more. This one is to tell us about your cover, all our way back to always. I don't know what I was saying there. Did you get to have any say in, because I know Rosa had a photographic cover.
Right. They did a whole like photo shoot for Rosa, which was really cool. And it's really cool too, because like the model, let me see if I can grab it. The model for Rosa, we like ended up following each other on Instagram, and like her mom followed me, and like her mom was like loving everything and giving me yellow hearts all the time. And I was just like, I love this. It just exemplifies what I was doing with this book. Was like, it's all about community for me. So I love the like family component of talking to my readers and having my book, model's mom reaching out to me. Like, I love that. But with Our Way Back to Always, it was really exciting because this would be my first illustrated cover, and I love everybody's illustrated covers. But this is by Eric Davila, who is amazing. He's on Instagram. He's everywhere. He's doing a bunch of covers. He's so nice. He's always sharing stuff. Like, he was like sending me like the pictures so I could use them in Instagram stories, like on the side. I'm like, Eric, you're amazing. But I didn't necessarily get to pick the scene. My editor did, but I loved the scene. And then when she told me that it was going to be like the pool scene, like, I love an introspective, existential conversation in a pool of two people like floating around being, so the fact that would be on the cover, I thought would be really blue, sunshine, romantic. And if I can insert Latinx teens into a rom-com teen moment, I'm going to do it. So it was fun to, I don't know, it's really fun to see that. And I think they're super dreamy. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So my last question of the night is, what are you all working on, or what's next? I don't know if you want to pitch your next book or whatever you want to talk about, but what's up next for you?
I'll have it.
Got it. Okay.
So Laura's got it. Laura's first.
Yeah,
right,
November 2nd. I know that was a stretch, and I probably pulled something because it's just what's happening this week. I have When We Were Them, which is a big departure for me because this is not a rom-com and it is not a romance. It has a little of that in there, but this is a solely friendship book, and the love story in this book is about a ride or die friendship, and it is coming out November 2nd. Dual timeline with a betrayal. Ask the questions, were everything these friends were to each other enough to withstand everything they've become? Definitely different and heavier, and the other side of me, which is a San Diego, Mission Beach, California girl. Lots of Latino rep in here as well, just a different side of me and a different take on that, which I think we need too. And there's Latino girls up here too. So they're all here. Just I like this because it celebrates the different way that we can, as Latino writers, infuse our culture into stories. And it's not always the same thing. It's not always a border or a food or a language issue. Sometimes it's three girls being friends in high school and all the struggles. So When We Were Them from Simon & Schuster, November 2nd. Yeah.
It's a gorgeous cover too.
Thank you. Yeah, I
have
love
the
it.
link in the chat.
Pretty. Oh, thanks. Yeah.
I love friendship books. I'm so excited.
What about you, Laekan?
So I mentioned earlier my sophomore novel is Heartbreak Symphony. It comes out in April of 2022, and it's a companion novel to my debut, Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet. So it takes place in the same neighborhood, following in Nina's footsteps by just expanding this universe and writing as many books as possible I can in Monte Vista. Aaron is actually one of the secondary characters in Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet. He and his twin brother do like the veggie prep. So they're sort of in the background of the story. We don't see them a whole lot, but this is his standalone, and it introduces his love interest, which is Mia, and they bond over a shared love of music. They bond over a shared stage fright. And they also bond over having lost a parent. So it's a sad book. It's a very deep, emotional book, inspired a lot by my own teen years when I lost my father to cancer when I was a teenager. And so great book to be writing during the pandemic. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. But it was also, I think, really healing and really important for me to do. So that comes out in April of next year.
Yeah, all three really good covers. Oh, and Nina, do you want to talk about Maggie Diaz?
Yeah.
Okay.
My next after this is in March of next year. Join the Club, Maggie Diaz. It's a heavily illustrated middle grade novel with Scholastic, following Maggie Diaz, who is a very precocious, angsty Cuban American girl who is pretty bummed that over summer all of her friends figured out what they're into, whether it's band, whether it's art club, whether it's, you know, whatever, and she just wanted independence. She just wanted to hang out with them. She just wanted a cell phone. She just wanted her mom to let her ride her bike to the beach, but all of a sudden everybody's leveled up, and so she figures the best way to figure out who she is and get back on the same stage as everyone else is to join a club and figure out what her thing is, what she's into, what will define her in a really cool, tangible way. So she's going to join a bunch of clubs and try out a bunch of activities, and so hopefully along the way make her friends hang out with her again, and hopefully get a cell phone and get on a roll. So fingers crossed for Maggie Diaz.
Awesome. All right. So I want to say thank you to all three of you for joining us. Thank you to Nina for getting a whole bunch of boxes delivered to her house and signing them for us. I'm sure that's very convenient, but we really appreciate it. Thank you, Laura and Laekan. You guys were amazing conversants. And also thank you to Sienna, who's in the background, who helped orchestrate this launch. I do want to mention, because I forgot to mention it in my intro, that Our Way Back to Always was pushed to October 19th. So we aren't going to ship these, tomorrow. So they're going to ship next week. Disclaimer for those of you who have ordered or are planning to order. But we have signed copies. We have amazing swag. So just hold out one more week. Supply chain stuff. It's complicated these days. But yeah, congratulations, Nina. We love you so much. Thank you for spending some time with us.
I love you all so much. Book This is best, you guys.
Thank you.
Yay, one more time. Let's do it.
Oh,
Get them on. Get them.
I'm gonna take a picture.
Do it. Ooh, you're so pink.
somebody get a picture, yeah?
I took a picture. Yeah. Hopefully someone got a screenshot. Okay. All right. Good night, everybody.
I can do like 10 seconds.
Bye.
Bye.